everything is happening right now, right? And some things are happening quickly, some things are taking time, and we're rolling things out and getting going as things happen, right? So we have a plan. Some things are going to happen quickly, some things are going to happen slowly. But in my mind, and sort of taking the temperature out there in the public space, there's definitely been a lot of there's just been a lot of panic, and there's been a lot of different types of information floating around out there.
People say that there's nothing going on. And by way of example, I had gotten a call last week from a former natural health practitioner who, is very interested in this issue and is dialoguing with other natural health practitioners. A naturopathic doctor, I think it was, posted a video saying, well, why is anyone worried about Vanessa's Law? All Vanessa's Law is a requirement to report adverse reactions. And so the only change is that it will be adverse reactions concerning natural health products. I found it interesting that we had a naturopathic doctor actually going out of her way to try and tell other naturopathic doctors, don't worry here, there's just no problem at all. As a lawyer, my advice has changed. It's like, I don't even want to be hired now going forward for clients like that, because what's the point? I can just say, what, you don't have to hire me. When Health Canada says jump, you ask how high. They own you. Prior to July or June 22nd, the definition in Section 2 of the Act of Therapeutic Product excluded natural health products. So Section 500 amends that definition, so it no longer excludes natural health products. So now all of the therapeutic product sections apply except for 2. No, it's already law. It's already law.
Okay.
So the whole thing is already law. It passed second reading and received royal assent on June 22nd. So as practitioner, anyone, if you're a practitioner and you don't manufacture or sell a product, or advertise, no worries at all. But if you are, if you're advertising or if you're selling, most practitioners don't manufacture, then the $5 million a day fines apply if you violate sections of the Act. Once we accept fees, and they're telling us very clearly in the non-negotiable self-care framework, of which this is just one part, that there's going to be full harmonization, including costs. Well, of course, they'll stage it in steps. So step 1 is you accept cost recovery and know that the industry has resisted this 3 times. So in 1998, that's what the Citizen Rebellion was about, cost recovery. That's what the lawsuit was that Alan Rock backed down on at the eve of. Literally the night of the lawsuit is when he backed down. So, and then a couple of times since then, they've introduced the concept of cost recovery, and we forced them to back down, because once you accept it, then, they just incrementally increase it. Like, I'm not expecting them to be gone in the next 6 or 8 months.
Okay, so that helps.
But I am expecting them to be gone in 2 years fully. And so they're going to set up a whole new enforcement arm to make sure these strict regulations are adhered to, and to go out into the marketplace and make sure people are not saying anything other than the approved label claim after the Citizens Rebellion in 1998. So when we're we're on this back and forth before we get the NHP regulations. And then definitely when we get the NHP regulations, which are a train wreck and should have been resisted. It isn't what anyone envisioned, drug style regulations. Like, you replace go to the NHP regulations and you replace NHP with the word drug, and you compare them to the drug regulations, and you tell me how they're structured different and how the assumptions aren't different. Yes, we can use things like traditional use evidence every step of the way. Like in 2017, when they came out with the self-care framework, I offered an olive branch. I can still pull up the email where I, emailed them and say, this really is the end. Like, help me out here. And, maybe we should work together on this. And we started campaigning, and we got no industry funding and no industry support, because they were actively campaigning that this is okay, that the self-care framework is okay. That's been their position. They're not asking for cost recovery to be stopped. Oh, let's reduce the fees. And so when I've talked about how there'll be a step down, they'll be the ones saying we're the heroes. had a seat at the table with Health Canada, and we reduced the fees. Are you crazy? You point out to me a single provision that's good for the natural health community. Like, help me out here, CHFA. Like, they went out of their way to undermine the citizens' campaign. It was, and it wasn't just the NHPPA's campaign. I mean, total groups formed and everyone was enraged about this. So when they have a campaign now where they're talking about in their letter toothpaste and fiber and labeling, they don't have the same end goal as us. We want Vanessa's law not to apply. We want that repealed. We want natural products to be deregulated. The federal government doesn't have jurisdiction over them under their criminal law power. We want the Charter of Health Freedom enacted. We want the entire self-care framework stopped. What's going on here? Right? Like, what's going on? So in effect, what my concern is that their campaign's actually going to diffuse the real campaign, because some people will have signed this postcard referring to toothpaste and think they've done something.
Can we speak to that a little bit? So there's the SOS campaign that's going on there, and obviously you submit or sign the petition and what have you. This whole idea of writing your MP, right, and actually writing to the government. A lot of people are sort of saying, what's the point? Like, is this even going to do anything, right? So you can speak to the SOS campaign and then sort of tie that in as well.
Well, let's stop with the SOS campaign, because that is the Canadian Health Food Association campaign. And the question is what did I think? What do I think?
Yeah.
And what I think is I'm not sure, but I'm highly skeptical. Like, they don't have the same goals. They don't have the same end game. And whether it's deliberate or just an inability to see that there's fundamental legal philosophical problems, and that Health Canada has a long-term goal to get rid of this industry, like, full stop. You don't want to be sitting across the table from them. You're not there to negotiate. We need to dictate the terms. Now, so is writing your MP going to make a difference? Because the implication is why bother, right? I think that's the implication in the question. And it's a good question, because I think we seriously have to ask ourselves right now, can we do it? We've done it every other time. We've stopped this every other time, but actually stopping isn't enough now. I mean, when we're talking about writing letters and shutting down MP offices, like Bill C-51, then it was a proposed law, and now it is law. But we were gamed on it and didn't have time to respond. So I mean, we've got to raise even more fuss. But they did back down by pressure on MP offices alone. The NHPPA was in hibernation, because the reality is the industry and citizens don't fund us unless there's a crisis. Well, the reality is they tend not to fund us at all anyway. So it's funny. I mean, have got a list of questions that are common, that people are saying, and do this and do this and do that, and I know those people are not supporting us financially. So how are we supposed to hire somebody to do what you're asking us to do? I'm almost at the boiling point of people, especially in the industry, who are saying, do this, do that, and they're not supporting us financially. And when you first asked the class action question, you would raise the term discrimination. And that in itself is a theme we haven't raised yet, but likely we will, because in a lot of these traditions, they're cultural. Like, they're part of their culture, actually using their healing modalities. And in some cases, even border on religious beliefs. This has a significance even aside from the health stuff. My personal thoughts are that lawsuits are just an absolute waste of time. And we would spend, $500,000 to $1 million and not get anywhere. We don't even have to try and make this sound worse than it is. Like, no, this is what they're doing. And this is because it's so awful. It's so clear when you look at it that it's the dead end for the natural health community.
And under these new amendments, the regional directors for the WHO can declare a global pandemic with one outbreak. And then you've got top-down control with that, where basically you have to do what all the member states have to do, whatever they recommend.
We have a golden opportunity now, and they can't lock us down in summer. Like normally, and help me out, anyone who's an activist, you never start a campaign in summer. No, 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 no. You wait till the middle of September when the back to school kind of busyness has ended, and then you launch your campaign. You don't get people interested when they're, you know, sipping beers on the beach and having a barbecue. So you're talking about on these international health regulations, how they're actually getting more power to combat misinformation. And you know, just we all know that misinformation means any health information, truthful or not, that goes against the government narrative. So what that means just is censorship. So do you think, and Canada's like in this as a dirty shirt, and this is all part of harmonization, do you think the timing of the federal government passing Bill C-17, which allows them to censor misinformation on the internet, because they didn't have jurisdiction before over the internet, do you think that timing is an accident? So the issue is can we as a nation, as a group of citizens, get ourselves together, organized in such a way, and I appreciate there's going to be a whole bunch of different groups doing different things, but, you know, coordinating on the message and goals. Can we get ourselves in a situation where we make Parliament responsive again? We're a creative bunch, and if we all pull together, I think we have to make it so that they have no choice. I also wanted to talk about the, you know, the practitioner-client relationship, right, or practitioner-patient relationship. That Health Canada has no jurisdiction over. So when you're, you know, one-on-one with a patient, you're free to talk. That is not advertising under the Act. You better be telling your patients the truth, and you can, like one-on-one, you know, doctor-patient type thing, green light, full steam ahead, you know, don't worry about that. Health Canada usually doesn't go after practitioners in stores, they go after the manufacturer. And for practical purposes, although, you know, with this new enforcement arm and knowing that they want to get rid of practitioners, margins are fairly tight in the natural health product industry. When we look at like cost recovery, so yeah, there'll be these new fees. You also have to figure in, but I mean, nobody's done the costing, and I'm not competent to do the costing. Like, what's going to be the cost to a manufacturer to have to be complying with much stricter GMPs? Because even to get a product license now, Health Canada's going to do an inspection of your site before they'll even issue you a product license, for example. And they're going to be doing site visits and stuff like that that you wouldn't expect before. And what's the cost of all of that? If you are growing your own herbs and compounding your own products for your own consumption, I mean, you might as well have a dairy cow and be drinking raw milk. You're okay.
Okay.
Don't you dare give it to anyone else. Now, well, it's only $5 million a day. Who cares? You can afford that. With the self-care framework, one of our concerns, it wasn't answered with Health Canada's cross-country tours, was right now we call it the compounding exception. So where somebody like and TCM doctors do this a lot, where they'll have a patient in, and they'll actually compound in their office a specific remedy for that patient. It's okay because of the way the term manufacturer is defined in the natural product regulations, that it's not meant to cover that type of situation. In 2017 it was, or 2018, I forget now, but when, you know, this was going on, I had by email contacted Health Canada's contact for the self-care framework to see if they would confirm or deny that this exemption would survive the self-care framework, and they won't say. Health Canada has been turning more and more and more personal importations back. And now, and I know in some cases, although I don't have recent cases, but I know in some cases they would open the bottles. I'd say you can't. And so that happens enough times and you just stop shipping to Canadians. Like, obviously, we want everyone to subscribe to the NHPPA and do the campaigns that we set up. But, you know, as other groups do things and you decide for yourself, and let's all share together and make things happen. Like, the whole point is for the government to understand that we're not going away on this issue and we're not taking no as an answer. And we've had enough. You want an end game? Yeah, this is an end game. We're going to deregulate and you're going to get your nose out of this forever. But we are launching a campaign about putting pressure on your MP, which we really are going to make it easy for you to know what to talk about when you go and visit. And we're going to make it really easy for you if you want to write your own letter, which is the best, better than our form letter. Here's talking points, just pick some, and here's how you do it. And we don't want you to just visit them once and write a letter once. We want you to do it, if you will, weekly or at least bi-weekly. And don't just send a letter to MP, send it to the Prime Minister and send one to the Minister of Health. The media is coming to us. Like, and it's happening because people are excited about this issue, and we've just started putting the word out. We're encouraged that you're participating and showing interest. So, because we need to be encouraged too. We're putting in long days, and we're hopeful that the message is resonating and we can work together. So.